Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to Digital Dialogues powered by CXO Digital Pulse. We are in an era where enterprises are moving from AI pilots to real world deployment. But the challenge isn't no more around AI insight. Rather, it's about embedding them into everyday decision strategies. Today's conversation, we will be exploring how organization can bridge this gap between AI insights and everyday automation by evolving their data, platform, and decision making. And for this, we have two eminent industry leaders with us today. Mr. Santhosh TG, who is the Chief Digital Officer with Switch Mobility, and Mr. Siddhesh Naik, who is Director Growth Segment Technology Sales with IBM India and South Asia. A very warm welcome, both of you. And I'll directly jump to my first question. So, Santosh, from you, I would like to understand that, as enterprises are adopting this AI journey from themselves and they're having this entire setup of things for their AI journey, how do you see where is the gap where they can actually utilize their AI insights into their day to day operational aspects? Is there any challenge? If yes, what it is?
Well, thank you, Pratik, for that question. You rightly mentioned that it's an AI journey. So we have already started journey. We are halfway through. In fact, a week before I was there in one of the technology event, and the keynote speaker was actually telling that, we are in an era where, if I have to put an analogy, it's like BC and AD. So we are in an era. We were talking about AI 3.5 years before or 3 years before, and now we are talking about what are all the challenges which we are facing on implementation of AI, which clearly resonates that there is a very good maturity in artificial intelligence as such. For me, if you ask me what are all the challenges, purely in my experience, I work for Switch Mobility, which is manufacturing of electric vehicles. We also started up this AI journey almost a year before. And when we started up after doing couple of POCs, it was always residing there into PowerPoints. It was more like a technology kind of a demo. When we went back to the whiteboard and then we thought that, okay, where exactly we are having a challenge, then we realized that all the POCs, whatever was done, was purely an IT's initiative. We got the problem, we took the problem, we found that this is going to be an place where we can build an AI model. And many of the cases, the issue was not because of a wrong model, but the problem statement was not defined properly. So we shifted the gears. So we said that, okay, let's realign our strategy. And then things started moving in. So probably the three main strategies what we took in is, the number one is ownership outcome based. So instead of we driving a project, instead of we doing it, instead of we being sitting in a driver's seat, we actually sat in the second seat and brought the functional owners into the driving seat. All the initiatives today which are live in our environment is where the functional team started owning that project. So we clearly defined that it should be an outcome, the ownership should be on the outcome based kind of a result. The second, I would say, is that it should be continuously integrated with workflows. So integrated workflows is what I call it as. So today, if you take across any AI, there is an action which happens, and if this action remains a silo, then what happens is the outcome of it will again be useful only for dashboards. But if you are integrated the outcome of that AI for multiple functions, probably that's where there will be a completion of the AI implementation. The third one is data continuity. Assuming that there is an AI model which I'm building it across, putting on into the manufacturing line on the shop floor, if my bot says that, okay, there is a material which has been consumed, again, it is not ending up the outcome. So that information has to go to my supply chain. The supply chain information has to go to my logistics team, so that while there are already systems which has been built in SAP like a minimum order quantity and all those stuff, it doesn't hold good for every single product. So there is an action which happens. The bot identifies that there is an action. There is an work which the agentic AI passes on to the next function, and there is a material which is getting ordered, there is an ASN which is getting built, and the entire cycle has to happen. So there should be a clear continuity of the data flow right from the starting point till the end. And in all these things, if I have to talk on a manufacturing language, because I had been in manufacturing for almost 25 years now, I always take this analogy saying that quality is something which should not be done at the end of the line. It should be there built in into the process. The same way, there is a process which needs to be built in the entire AI journey, and that's where we were actually seeing the success.
Okay. Thank you for pinpointing this fragmented aspect. And with this thought, Siddhesh, I'll come to you. Enterprises are having this as a key concern. Coming from a technology platform provider, what is that one aspect or critical enabler that enterprises must put in place to ensure that this journey of AI embedded inside becomes like an integrated journey for them?
Thank you, Pratik, for that question. In fact, if you look at the whole transition to agentic AI over the last 3-4 quarters, the number of AI agents that are coming into the enterprise are just multiplying. We're moving from hundreds to thousands of each built on a different platform, embedded in multiple applications, deployed in silos, resulting in a massive amount of fragmentation. And what that fragmentation means is it limits the ability to get consumed, like what Santhosh said, in an outcome based manner. It limits your ability to scale, it limits your ability to drive governance as well. The aspect that has started becoming critical as you drive some of these elements is how does the agentic AI piece of work that you're driving, how does it integrate with some of the existing automation that you already put in place? It could be a fixed flow automation, it could be a Gen AI based, simplistic, deterministic based AI chatbot kind of an automation. But how does all of this integrate together into the whole integrated workflow story becomes a critical step into the whole piece. Also, the other critical point that Santhosh spoke about is the data continuity piece. How does this translate into a complete continuity across the conundrum, so that each outcome, each action has a end outcome that's consistent across the entire workflow that we're talking about. So I think those are aspects which have started becoming very critical, and enterprises are realizing it as they start moving from a pilot to production, how critical these elements are.
Okay. Taking cues from both the responses, and Santosh, I'll come to you with this thought. Data is the key as essence, or say asset, I would say. How do you suggest that CXOs start considering this asset as an important strategic asset rather than just a byproduct from these tools that they have put in place across the different aspects? And you mentioned that about the fragmented part also. Data is something and the outcomes are something that needs to be learned from on a continuous manner, and again utilized to ensure that your outcome also improves and is being achieved continuously. What should be the approach from the CXOs?
Um, Pratik, I think gone are those days where they say that data is new oil, data is going to give a lot of benefits and all those stuff. Now it is all taken for granted. Trust me, in another 4 or 5 years, on your P&L of an organization, the amount of data what you have will also be one of the line item. I'm thinking very wild, but again, I don't think those days will be faster. The reason I'm quoting this is data is something which is going to be very, very important. Okay, data reliability plays a very, very major role. Today, we have approximately 2,000 buses which is there on the roads, and every single bus we capture almost 175 parameters of data. In fact, we say that every single bus talks to us. 175, and we collect these data from 1 second to 6 seconds. So there are certain parameters where we collect data for 1 second, there are certain parameters which we collect for 6 seconds. Assuming that if there should be an outcome basis the data of 2000 vehicles, which is collecting at every single second of 175 parameters, I think there should be a magic which has to happen. And in today's world, magic is nothing but the artificial intelligence, what we talk about. So so the reliability of the data, what is bot? What is AI we are talking about? AI is nothing but a set of algorithm which is going to function. And today we are talking about from generative AI to agentic AI, which means there is some intelligence which is getting built on. And if this intelligence has to work, then there should be data governance which has to happen. The data reliability plays a very important role, and the organization should focus on saying that the kind of data what we collect, how clean it is. So there should be certain efforts which has to be put. If the efforts are there putting only on automation, probably we may end up with a lot of challenges in later stages, but there should be an equal amount of efforts which needs to be put in terms of collecting the data, maybe making it more clear.
Okay.
The second point, if I have to take an analogy for this, in fact, yesterday I met Mrs. Suresh, who is the CEO for DJ Yatra. Okay, he gave a very good example of saying the kind of risk appetite which that application has to happen. Many people say that there will always be a residual risk, but in AI, in my personal experience, I would say that there should not be any kind of a residual risk. Again, if I have to compare in a DJ Yatra, for example, you are instead of you, if the gate opens for me, I cannot call that as a residual risk. It should be a zero risk. So for any AI to work on, apart from the data cleaning, there should also be a pure risk governance which needs to be worked on. So there should be strategies which should be built in terms of analyzing the kind of risk and how you build a resilient infrastructure to overcome that. It should be a complete autopilot mode. But again, any CXO has to take a very critical call that everything cannot get on into an autopilot mode. There should always be an HIL, human in loop. Even in an aircraft, which is supposed to be the safest mode of transportation, even if there is an aircraft which has to be moved, the basic things, probably in IT language, we call it as an L1, L2 activities, has to be done by the bot, but there should be a human in loop which should actually overrule this decision in terms of anomalies. So when we talk about data quality, Pratik, I think the CXOs or the CIOs and CDOs have to rework. Today probably they will have to rework on the organizational structure of their functional organizational structure. See, in any manufacturing company, you know that there will be people who will be monitoring the quality standards. When a manufacturing organization or when any organization for that matter are able to have a battalion of people who actually monitor the quality of the product, I think according to me, for any successful implementation of such technologies, there should also be a quality person within the IT function who should be able to monitor the kind of data which is coming in. For a manufacturing unit, the material comes in, there is a quality check which is happening. And for me, the product, AI, the ingredients is data. And for monitoring the data, I think every CXO should start planning of putting one organizational structure or one vertical which should be constantly monitoring the kind of data which is coming in. Probably have to work on it and to say make how effective it is going to be there for having a successful artificial intelligence model. This is my view.
Great. And while Siddhesh, he had mentioned a very good example of a day-to-day life when we are entering the airport and even the kind of data that gets collected for switch mobility. I'll come to you. Move from a technology provider that while the enterprises are having a cultural shift, is there any architectural shift or say a mindset shift which is required to look upon data as a very critical aspect that tends to further improves your automation and AI outcomes, because that becomes critical for enterprises when they want to achieve that kind of an ROI or a business impact in the market.
So, Pratik, while we saw this journey with a lot of enterprises over the last few years, the initial phase was a headless chicken approach towards a ton of use cases, a wow factor around those use cases. But none of those use cases had the ability to move from a pilot to production. And one of the primary reasons for that was the lack of an AI ready data foundation. And I think most large enterprises have now pivoted on to laying the AI ready data foundation, right from you're getting data across into a lake house or a warehouse from multiple sources, from unstructured data sources that come in. The whole data quality piece that Santhosh alluded to, aspects of auto curation of every element of the data platform that you're talking about, the data quality curation, the auto curation of cataloging of that data, the elements of policy enforcement that you want to bring in, the privacy aspects that need to come in. So all of those elements, the whole metadata tagging of that data and your ability to consume that data, lower the center of gravity of consumption of that data for different business units in the enterprise has started becoming a very, very critical element.
Okay.
The next element that has also come in, which is a layer which sits on top of the governance layer, is what you call as the lineage layer. And this has become very, very pertinent in especially the regulated industry. So RBI today demands a trace back of what was the data in its original source to the right from the consumption layer. It is also used to look at interdependencies as you drive transformations. What all is it impacting if this is getting impacted? So those are aspects which have started becoming important as well as you lay the AI ready data foundation. So these are a few things. What has also changed over the past few quarters is agentic AI coming into the data engineering aspects of the data foundation as well. So how do I use agentic to write jobs for me? How do I have them in the right format that you would want, the right prompts that go in? How do you use agentic AI to optimize jobs to get the right performance that you would want to? So you're seeing technology getting into some of these data engineering aspects as well.
Okay. And while we have discussed all these aspects around data and talking about the current scenario in the market, multiple enterprises are there in this race of moving their POCs to become success and then moving it at scale. Going forward, say fast forward 3 to 4 years, how do you differentiate between the set of organizations that would have been successfully able to move AI to scale versus those who couldn't? What would be the key differentiating factors between these two types of enterprises?
See, I would say that every single organization has to go with AI. In fact, Pratik, 5-10 years before, or rather 5 years before, we were talking about the importance of cybersecurity. And in fact, many of people used to ask me. At least I was lucky enough that whatever the initiatives I do on cybersecurity, I used to get the budget from the CFO. So few people ask, how do you do that? So I always say that I do a nice presentation on cybersecurity. And at the end of the slide or after the budget slide, I will say that if you feel that this product is expensive for cybersecurity, be without this product. So there is a risk. So I'm just going to throw the ball to the court of CFO saying that, okay, if you're not going to implement, you are bringing the organization into the risk. So similarly, in today's world, I'm actually shifting that statement. If you're not going to invest, if you're not going to put that into AI, considering the cost, and if you're not going to do it, you will be the late runner. Okay? You will not be able to. In 5 years down the line, every single organization will be talking about AI. So for now, and every investment cannot be measurable, cannot have a tangible ROI. There will be process improvement, there will be quality improvement, and people who have been doing monotonous work probably will have to relearn. So you will have to come up with a strategy of unlearn and relearn kind of a concept where where you'll have to have bot to do the monotonous work, and probably you'll have to make the people to use probably in a better way, in a better place where there is a human intervention which is needed.
Okay. And Siddhesh, while we are almost at the end of our this discussion today, from you, I would like to understand what would be your advice to enterprises to ensure that they have a very sustainable and responsible approach towards their AI journey.
So Pratik, as enterprises move from pilots to production, as they scale the adoption of agentic AI, one of the core elements that is very, very critical to have in place is the whole AI governance piece. Uh, how do I have the right guardrails? Guardrails from a perspective of risk elements that are in there, guardrails from an element of the statutory requirements, the compliance elements that are required, the process governance for the regulated industry. There is a very significant amount of process governance piece that goes in. And the third and the fourth and the most important point is as agentic AI gets as an integrated uh, deployment. What is also critical is the agent integrates with a tooling or an automation out there. How do I have guardrails on what is it allowed to integrate with? And last but not the least, the most important point that Santhosh alluded to in his earlier response was about on critical aspects. How do we continue to have a human in the loop who while some of the basic elements are in there, he has an ability to overrule that if he sees any deviant behavior in the whole execution.
Okay.
So I think those are the aspects that I see being critical to embracing AI in a large way for an enterprise.
That's amazing. And I think it's very evident from today's conversation that, and I think it will be fair enough to call data as the soil for the enterprises, because more fertile the soil is, more fruitful will be the outcomes. And as Santosh mentioned, the results are something from this AI and automation are something which needs to be outcome driven for the organization, very strategic, thoroughly thought, with all the governance in place, having that kind of a proper risk appetite that you need to assess and ensure that you have those guardrails, governance, compliance in place to have a very sustainable, responsible, and successful AI journey for yourself. And I think this clearly defines the crux for our conversation today. Thank you so much, Santosh and Siddhesh, for a wonderful interaction today with us. And hope it was definitely an insightful conversation to our audience. Keep watching the space for more such insightful conversation. We'll bring more industry leaders. Till then, take care and goodbye.